everybody, welcome to the weekly bump. We've got 3 piles this week. I'm only going to do 3. We're doing a purple aura quartz, a clear crystal quartz, and a yellow aura quartz. I'm also going to pull a rune this week as well. I felt like the energy deserved that. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Again, I said this last week, but if you're someone who really struggles with pick of cards and not knowing which pile to select, just pick one at random. I do believe there's an element of destiny with pick a cards. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick. It's more about the message that comes out, okay? And there's always going to be something useful for everyone. So take a moment, breathe, feel connected to a pile, and then the timestamp will be in the description box down below. Thanks, guys. Okay, pile number 1, you guys selected the purple aura quartz, and I turned this over beforehand. You guys got the Burkana rune. Okay, now it's reversed. So to me, this suggests, this rune by itself indicates growth and rebirth. Okay, but when it's reversed, there can be an interference, and it's usually events or has to do with your own personal perspective or your own character that can get in the way of your growth, which means you may feel like you don't really know what to do. You don't really know how to act. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to really be there or how to really show up. And that's okay. But what needs to happen is you need to kind of take a step back and do your due diligence, right? This is about learning and studying and allowing and creating space for that rebirth to actually occur. You need to take a step back and, examine your role in the situation here. And are you putting your wants before the needs of other people right now? Or are you, moving forward with the needs of others? And you may feel torn between the two of like, well, am I supposed to just take care of myself, or am I really supposed to be there even though I don't quite know how to be there? So there can be a lot of kind of feeling trapped, kind of being trapped in the middle. But it's time to really lay the groundwork. And as I've been saying all year, 2020 is all about the foundation. It's about cultivating the soil so that this time around you can actually regrow the right way, so you're not repeating the same mistakes and the same kinds of situations that you have in the past. Okay, so we have the Magician coming out first. King of Fire, beautiful. 8 of Fire. Wow, a lot of fire. 4 of Fire and Temptations. These are all like wand cards here. Well, we love the Magician because it is a card of manifestation, right? It's interesting that we have the Magician and Temptation, which is kind of like the devil here, showing up on either ends of the tarot spread. Magician is powerful. He's well-versed in taking things out of the idea realm or the concept realm, right, the metaphysical realm, and pushing it forward into the material. He knows how to bridge that gap. And then even the temptation side, though, there could be some material goals that you might be kind of like you're tempted, but I don't know that the King of Fire can follow materialism right now. I just simply don't. I think in a lot of ways, your goals seem to be superseding past goals, and you are elevating yourself because your heart is kind of turning to fire here, as we see with this heart being illuminated. Your heart is growing, your heart is expanding, you're cultivating the soil, right? I think that's going to be a catchphrase that we'll use for this reading. You're cultivating the soil. And while the temptation to, business as usual, start buying things you weren't able to buy before, or like whatever it was, I think that temptation will still be there because for whatever reason, that's what's comfortable. For whatever reason, going back to the normal way seems like the easy option, and yet clearly, and I love kind of the old man quality that's coming out with the old white beard here, indicating wisdom, meaning there is an elevation going on. There is an ascension happening, and it's happening quite rapidly with the 8 of Fire. There's movement, as the number 8 suggests. There's mutability, there's flexibility, agility, and while on one hand, you might not quite know exactly what to do, or you might not quite know exactly which actions to take, and you may feel or perceive a stagnation, or like, oh my God, are we seriously back here again? Like, is this really where we're at? There's still a will to change, right? There's still a will. You may perceive the temptations for others' complacency as well. This might not even necessarily belong to you. Other people's materialism, other people's desire to just not do anything, other people's desire to, stay in the dark. And, they're going to just, I'm going to keep doing it for me. I'm going to keep doing it because it's my life and I can only take care of myself and da 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 da. And yet this rune here is a suggestion, like I said, of putting other people's needs before your wants. And so there seems to be a flip-flop in the scripting here a little bit. And now I don't necessarily mean that this is for like your toxic partner that you're dealing with who continues to take and take and take, right? That's not what I mean. I think this is more globally, more, I said this last week, it's really, really hard to completely separate ourselves from what's going on in the world right now. And so I do feel personal, individual responsibility of shifting priorities. And a lot of people are making significant changes in their life. They're accepting parts of themselves that maybe they, it's like they thought they wanted something for so long, and now all of a sudden the world is showing them that maybe that goal is really pointless and maybe don't follow that path anymore. And that can feel a little disorienting sometimes, which is why probably a little bit of that stagnation. And yet you are beginning to till the soil because your heart is calling you in that new direction. That there's a feeling of like being called up, right? Like your name, like they've picked your name and it's time for you to really step up to something. And it's exactly what you've been creating this whole time, right? Some kind of a purpose, some kind of a meaning, which is, I think, one of the things that humans can just simply not escape. They just simply cannot escape the feeling of wanting a purpose in life, of, what's the point of this existence, right? And I think that's coming to light for you. And then the Four of Fire is, often a card of celebration. Here she is, playing her flute. There's a quality of music. There's a quality of joy and stability as she's sitting on a rock. And I do feel like you're on pretty solid grounding right now. Please do not give in to the complacency of others in terms of listening to other people. It's not about that. It's not about allowing yourself to get washed back by the current, right, into the normalcy of life. I think this world really pushed us into a very uncomfortable situation for a reason, because we're meant to push forward. We're meant to push beyond the old karma and move into the new karmic cycles, which hopefully are much more positive and much more uplifting. And you're a part of it, King of Fire, for sure. There's a leadership quality. In a way, it's almost your place to teach other people as well, but you have to learn how to do it for yourself first. Okay, let's see what comes out. The waiting game. Yeah, there's something with time. Like there's a lot of movement. Time has been a thing for a couple of months. It's either completely waiting game, don't move, stay, or go. There's movement and it's really push-pull. It's really, really back and forth. I'm not trying to confuse you and I'm not trying to give you conflicting messages, but it's just the weirdness of where we're at. Okay, waiting game and recognition and reward, which I think goes on with the Four of Fire. If you can find stability in the passion of your heart and where your heart is really calling you to go, you will have what you deserve, right? I think that's pretty much a guarantee. You will be recognized for your work. You will be recognized for your efforts, okay? And for, in a way, your change of heart, right? As a lot of times we can feel like we won't be accepted if we change our minds, or we won't be accepted if we change our path, or we care so much about what people think of us because we were going down this track and we were so gung-ho about it, and now all of a sudden one day we're like, nope, we're going to go this way. And there can be some concern about making that flip-flop because of what other people think. And yet I think you surpass this. I think you have the capacity to just be pure and be true and authentic to your most inner voice. And because of that, you will be recognized, because you did not give in to temptation, because you did not give in to complacency. So yes, there will absolutely be, a till, is that what they call, like, till the soil, right? There's a time where you have to, churn up all the soil, and you gotta, make that soil fresh again. And I think that's really where you're at. But there is a tree here inside, right? There's a tree of life. And so there is an indication of growth. There is indication of cycles, and there is an indication of as above, so below. So, we have the go ahead, if you will, from the universe to make the switch. To make the switch. And I think it's going to feel comfortable. I don't think this is all woohoo, spiritual, super, super high level stuff. This is more about decisiveness. There's, again, the word the soil keeps coming to my mind. And I looked at the cards beforehand. You'll see why. And there's a grounding quality that's coming out. It's like, stay grounded, stay in the earth, stay present, stay in the moment, right? They call it the present for a moment, because the present is a gift. And if you can stay there, your heart's messages will become clear. If you're projecting too far out in the future, you may feel very easily overwhelmed, and then you become complacent because it feels a little too daunting. All right? Show the world the real you and hold your vision. Yeah, and I think the King of Fire with the Magician, boom, both of those together, both signify holding your vision, right? This is about the greatest good, the needs of others, not succumbing to the wants of the ego. This is about love. It's about caring. And this is what happens, right? When you step into that mind state, when you connect with God in that way, you can't help but be anything other than who you really are, because I think that's our natural state, because that's where we came from. And I feel like there's a little bit of a battle between spiritual and the world right now with you guys. It's like material goals, worldly goals, all the things the world has ever taught you that you're supposed to care about, boom, all of a sudden you aren't going to care about those things anymore. And there's really no going back. And all the prestige and the, the money and the relationships and all the things, right, that we're culturally taught to want and to go after completely become irrelevant. And you may be going through this process over the next few months as Jupiter and Pluto are doing their little dance in Capricorn. And in Vedic astrology, okay, that's actually happening in the very last degrees of Sagittarius, which there's a huge philosophical concern coming out with that. So philosophical differences and following the purity of heart is absolutely how you're going to win in this particular scenario. So if you have to take a step back and realize maybe where you've been holding yourself back, and maybe realize where you've been wrong, that is actually your greatest strength. Because I think overall, the vision is to be as, highly contributing as a spiritual force, an energetic force, a loving force in this world. That's the real you. And then we have gratitude, which is always, always a piece of the puzzle. It's always important to express gratitude, even for the smallest things. Like I say, the present moment is called the present for a reason, because it truly is a gift. And when we express the gratitude that we actually probably really do feel most of the time, that's magician energy, right? When we say the words, they're so magical. When we say the words, when we say the things, that is when it becomes truth. That's why, in casting a spell, you say you say it out loud, and at the end you say, so be it, because that's inevitably going to become a truth. So if you want to feel like there are things to be grateful for, you have to say the words. And I actually recommend saying them with your actual voice, not just thinking them and not just feeling them. But when you create form, which words are vibrations, therefore they are form. When you create form, it becomes reality. And then we have the tree grounding. This is why I said that. We've got the tree here. We've got the tree in here. We've got the bamboo here. There's definitely an element of as above, so below. Definitely an element of being here, being present in the earthly realm, and, contributing to the conversations, contributing to the education, contributing to the world. Now, it doesn't have to be about all the, the protesting and the racial, and it doesn't have to be about that per se. although that's the most relevant thing going on. But there are other things you can do as well, like, educating people about your own process, storytelling, sharing your healing processes, sharing your experiences of recognizing some time when you were wrong, or how your own character has held you back in the past and how you've overcome those things. All those things are incredibly relevant and important to the world right now and moving forward in the future. And Earth as well. See how connected to the Earth you are? It's actually pretty cool. Because this is where we're at, right? We're here on Earth. We can astral project all we want. We can meditate all we want. We can go to other dimensions all we want, but at the end of the day, when your eyes open, you're here. So we should just be here and, be fully invested in this realm, in this dimension, with this state and this level of consciousness. And there is a lot of work to be done internally, and there's a lot of learning to do. And then ground your light. Do you see what I mean? Ground your light, earth, the trees. Bring your light here. Bring it here. And this is a form of giving, by the way, right? Let your soul shine. And I see the sun halo here with his heart chakra really being illuminated there. We have the light. This is a service to humanity when you are a being of light, when you are a being or a force of good, when you are someone who can express and show compassion in every possible way, when you are someone that can, show kindness and peace in every act that you do. Not saying you can't still have valid emotions, because yes, of course you can. But generally speaking, if you can have those emotions and still bring light, that's where you are here, right? Bring your light to earth. That's the important place. And TikTok. See what I mean about time? Timing, pushing. Time is like playing with us right now. I feel like time is a part of this like trickster energy. And I think this has a lot to do with Mercury and Saturn retrograde. We're not quite in Mercury retrograde yet, but that will be happening this week. So Mercury is definitely slowing down, which may feel like, I don't know, it may feel like we're kind of experiencing a little bit of inertia, right? Like we're going to get pulled backwards here in just a minute, but we're still like our bodies are still moving in a certain direction. So you may feel the transition going on. And there may be a lot of you who are asking, well, when is the right time to make this change? When is the right time to say these things and whatever? And of course, that's going to depend on a scenario by scenario basis. But usually when the time is right, you'll know. I also feel like there's a quality of time running out on the negative things in your life, the negative influences, the negative people. Time is running out because you're becoming brighter as we speak. You're becoming more loving as we speak. You're becoming a more authentic you as we speak. And the more pure your vibration, full moon in Aquarius, the more pure your vibration is, the more fixed your vision is, the more likely things are going to fade away. So don't be surprised when people leave. Don't be surprised when you can't have conversations with people. Don't be surprised when you get accused of being something, bad when you're really just being in your light and people can't handle that. Don't be surprised and just let it go, right? Let it leave your life. I think actually your path is becoming more and more clear the more you stop trying to cling and the more you stop trying to go back to normal. And the more willing you are to follow that which is good. See, freedom, exactly. I possess the power and the free will to create my own happiness. Yes, this is personal responsibility here, personal choices, personal accountability. As much as we like to blame everybody, right, it all comes down to our own personal actions. And it comes down to our own personal thoughts. Remember the magician. If you think something, you're more likely to say it. And if you say something, it's more likely to become true. And using, dark magic on yourself, probably not a good idea, right? Kind of shooting yourself in the foot with a negative thought, shooting yourself in the foot with, certain things. You have to be careful of what you're calling upon and what you're calling into your life. If you keep saying, I don't want to do it, I don't want to change, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to, I care about what so-and-so thinks, then that's going to become your reality. And a lot of this beautiful message is just going to fall by the wayside. This is an opportunity for each of us to step up. It's an opportunity for each of us to practice what we preach, right? And then we have the mother of believers. Sorry, I'm going to mispronounce her name. Khadija. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly, but she says, I am spiritually and financially abundant. I provide heaven and earth for myself. Yes, exactly. There's definitely an earth component. But with the as above, so below, there is also a heavenly component and how they are one and the same. When you affirm your gratitude, right, I am spiritually and financially abundant, it becomes more likely to become your reality. Even if you struggle to express those things when maybe you're not really believing them in the moment, I think we can chip away at these, negative subconscious programmings that we all have running. Slowly but surely. And as we do that, it does become, what you see. It changes your perspective. It changes how you see things. And then we have the legacy of light. And I love the generational component, right? We kind of have the goddess, the goddess moons, right? The three moons here, or the three faces of the woman. We have the child or the adolescent, we have the woman, and we have the crone. And there's a legacy component, right? The light that you bring today not only changes the ancestral lineage, but it changes the world for the generations to come after us. And when we step into this personal responsibility and we step up and we hold our vision and we hold our light, that is the type of world that we will bring. If we get down, and the temptation is strong, if we get down into, just going back to normal, or we, if we don't contribute in some way, shape, or form, then the world will not change, and the world will be the same for our children as well. So this is what we call spiritual warriors. This is what we call being on the front lines. And you don't have to do it in a huge mass, going and doing all the things that a lot of people are doing right now. You don't have to do that. This is about personal choices. And because you're in this period of, cultivating the soil right now, you are probably preparing for a new way of sharing your light, a new way of sharing your love, a new way of impacting the world positively in a totally different kind of way. So it's okay if you're like, oh my God, I'm supposed to do all this. No, just take your time, right? We're all on our own paths. We're all on our own levels of consciousness. We're on our own path of growth. So there's no hurry up, no nothing. It's just allow it to happen organically, because I think your heart is undoubtedly calling you in a certain direction, but it's not necessarily going to be the easiest direction either. So allow it to happen. Allow it to be what it needs to be, with no judgment toward yourself, and especially no judgment toward others, which we know is merely just a reflection of a judgment that we cast toward ourselves anyway. And just allow the change to take over. Okay? All right, Pile 1. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you guys soon. Monthly readings might be a little bit late this month. I'm really behind just because of the amount of energy I'm feeling. It's very, very difficult to do these readings, but I will do my best to get them out as soon as I can. All right. Thank you guys so much. Take care. All right, you guys selected pile number 2, the clear quartz. You guys also picked the algaes, hopefully I'm saying it properly, rune, and this signifies emotion. Okay, look, we're building up to a solar eclipse in the first degrees of Cancer, and emotions will be running pretty high. The goal here is to not get swept up by them. It's not to be ruled by them. It's not to act out because of them. It's a time to acknowledge the emotion, to acknowledge what's going on and why you feel a certain way. But to, I know it's really hard in the moment when things happen, but still, take a step back, breathe, because there can be a lot of mistakes when we act out so emotionally. And there can be a lot of things that we may regret. Here we have the Tower, that we may regret. So, and then with the Queen of Water, right? The most emotional there. So definitely emotions playing a big role for you this week. Wow, a lot of major arcana. Holy cow. We have the Empress, the Tower, Queen of Water, the Hierophant, and the Emperor. Look at how incredibly powerful these energies actually are. We have the Emperor and the Hierophant together, which is being, and I like the masculinity coming out with these two as well, because the Hierophant it's a very direct and conscious self-knowing, right? It's not like deep and hidden and underground. It's like, no, like I know what's right. I know what's good. I know what's best. And then you act on it accordingly. But it is very logical at the same time, right? The Emperor does not succumb to wildly or wily emotions even, right? All these emotions that go all over the place. He still feels them. He still has them, but they are not the reasons why he does things. There's a lot of thought, right? And we have this beautiful lion on a throne here. There's a lot of thought put into things, a lot of thought into the reasons why. And clearly there's going to be something that triggers. This card came out last week. Maybe you guys had this card last week as well. I think these two cards came out together in the same reading. So it might be a lot of you picking the same pile, that's something that changes, something that could trigger. This could be a very unprecedented or very sudden kind of event or conversation that you have with someone, something that will likely shock you in a way. But when that happens, right, for some reason, the Empress in this deck, she seems very melancholy to me. Like she does not seem truly Empress-like. I actually prefer the image here a lot better. So there might be a feeling of melancholy a little bit. You might want to kind of get up on your self-righteous high horse and like condemn people for not believing this, the things that only make sense, right? So that's when you need to say, okay, like, look, I'm dealing with a lower level of consciousness and that's it. And there's no judgment toward those people at all, because we cannot judge someone for their own path and for their own process of awakening. We can simply just say, okay, well, this is where you're at. It doesn't mean anything. And so we need to step into our power almost immediately, and we need to acknowledge when the wave of emotion is really coming online. Acknowledge like, okay, this is happening and I don't need to let it control me or consume me entirely. This solar eclipse in Cancer is definitely building up, definitely contributing to all of this. I just posted to my Instagram, I don't know if you guys knew this, but a lot of people believe that the age of Noah, like that great flood of Noah, had a lot to do with the age of Cancer, right? We're kind of in the age of Pisces, Aquarius right now. And the age of Cancer is, the time when the great flood was. So there's definitely a time of, reckoning happening with this solar eclipse in Cancer, this cardinal water, this like wall of stuff that can come at you. And yet when you're in your power here like this, when you're standing firm, you're standing steady, you're standing strong, you become a wall. You become a complete, just an adversarial force against the things that shouldn't be determining your choices, the thing that shouldn't be determining your actions and your voice. A lot of emotion will come from being triggered by things, there's a very common, circumstance of getting defensive, but again, Queen of Water, look at how proud and beautiful she is. She's just so completely relaxed and so completely like, okay, in the face of a tower, she simply moves forward. In the face of something sudden, she simply allows it to contribute to her evolution rather than getting down in the dirty of the chaos of this. And the Empress here, there could be a tendency to, for me, I'm feeling like it's almost like you want to reach out and grab her and pull her. There could be a feminine influence in your life, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, coworker, boss, someone that like, oh my God, like I can't believe that we're still in this situation or we're still having this conversation. And you want nothing more than to pull her along and to see the truth and to see the goodness and to see, the optimistic stuff. And yet maybe this is someone who just is really, really happy being completely in her melancholy, and that's it, right? And so it's not your battle to fight. You cannot fight the battle for everyone else. I think you're going to be much more focused on your own internal workings right now and your own internal reactions to things. And that's it. And your voice is calling. It's very loud. It's very pure. It's there's nothing to be in doubt of. There's no questions here of what's really going on, right? So you can only follow your heart. You can only follow your passion. You can only follow the way that is it's an inevitability for you, right? And to acknowledge that your path does not have to be the path of others. The base chakra, yeah, so there's definitely could be some anger, right? We have definitely a Mars quality coming out here with the red, and then we have deception and envy. But you can't be fooled here. This card has been coming out a lot. I think this has a lot to do with the Mars-Neptune conjunction, that just people are acting funny, right? There's a lot going on that we can't see. There's a lot of higher level puppet masters doing a lot of things. In your own personal life, you could have been dealing with someone who has been a bit shady or might be playing you or something like that. But you don't seem to be fooled by that. In fact, I think you're quite elevated from that. Doesn't mean you're not going to be angry about it. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel the things, like I said, but you're not going to let it consume you, which is what this rune is really all about. And I have a feeling that your anger or frustration or irritability or whatever it is actually going to propel you quite productively in a new direction, or working harder or being more vigilant in certain things. And I actually see a lot of courage with this Emperor card as well. Your courage is being amplified and reinforced in the face of adversarial energy. And that's a blessing, a little bit of a curse, but it's truly a blessing, maybe a blessing in disguise, you could call it. Of course, the Tower is, always something unexpected, but who cares, right? All of life is unpredictable. We can never predict what's going to happen, and we can never predict what someone else is going to do or what someone else is going to say, but we can, right, control the way we respond. And I just love this Hierophant. She's so beautiful. And then we have a win-win outcome is forecast. Wonderful. And your dreams need a practical plan. Okay, so look, there are no losers here in your scenario, meaning it's all going to work out. And I think faith is our number one asset. And I'm getting a lot of pushback from that personally. A lot of people are like, oh my God, how can you just say, just be faithful? Like, we need to act, we need to do something. And yet when the Tower comes, clearly this was some kind of a divinely inspired event, right? Or some kind of thing that none of us had any control over. Maybe you had no control over this, and this was not necessarily a product of your actions, but maybe a product of someone else. And yet it was purposefully put in our path for a very specific reason. And whatever the Tower deconstructed needed to be deconstructed for the sake of freedom, which means faith in the process, faith in the accident, faith in the conversation, faith that it will put you in the right, path. A win-win outcome is forecast. Everyone is going to win here, especially if you're like on a one-on-one scenario, right? It's going to be okay. When it comes to the direction you're headed, because clearly you're not giving any credence to this and you're just like, okay, I'm doing my thing. Now is a really good time, right? Practical plan, not emotional, a practical plan. Sit down, plan things out. What do you need to do? Who do you need to email? Whatever it is, and just do it, right? Taurus is a very tactile energy. It's all about using the hands, getting things done. It's about the earthy component of things where, the manifestation is about the having. So there's a lot to be done in the world. It's not so much spiritual or emotional right now. It's worldly. And the actions that you take and the words that you speak, really determine your success in this particular scenario. So choose your words carefully, choose your thoughts carefully, and choose your reactions even that much more carefully. Acceptance, yeah, of course. There is definitely an acceptance of other people, an acceptance of a lower level consciousness. We have to just accept that other people are merely at a lower level of consciousness, period. That's just it. And we can do our best to educate. We can do our best to try to communicate, to try to see things from other people's, minds, and we can try our best not to judge. But acceptance is really the first step to, it's like we begin with listening, we begin with talking, we begin with, opening our minds. That goes to an understanding, and then understanding converts to acceptance, and then acceptance converts to a unity. So this is a beautiful message, especially with the scales being balanced here with this full moon in Libra card, suggesting that things are coming into balance because you have chosen to accept where somebody is at. You've chosen to accept where you are at. You've chosen to accept that the world is where it's at. And from there, you can have a pretty firm foundation, right? We have two kind of Taurus energies coming out. So it's fixed earth. It's very, very firm grounding, which can offer as a launch pad into something else. So that's where we're at, right? And focusing on your goals, focusing on what matters. If you choose to focus on the deception or on the envy or on the jealousy or on the tower or on someone else's kind of situation, right? If you focus on those things, you detract from your own things, and you detract from the good that you can bring into the world. You detract from your gifts, from your value. And focusing on the optimism, focusing on the productivity, focusing on the tasks that can be taken is kind of your rebellious act. Because at a time where chaos is, splashed all over the place, doesn't necessarily have to be in your life. And I think in most people's lives, it's not really there. We're feeling it from other people, but most of us are not, contributing to the chaos in a big way. So to not absorb the external chaos is priority number one. Scorpio. Yeah, Scorpio. Oh, it's so intense. I know. Queen of Water. Even more emotion coming out here. She's fierce though, right? This Scorpio energy is super fierce. And I think you do. I think you have a very sharp tongue because you are feeling irritable or emotional, because you do have, a volatility to you. So you may have a sharp tongue and you may have a sharp reaction to things. So hopefully people that deal with you can accept that of you. And I think that's okay. I think it's merited. I think we're all a little bit on edge. And we just have to just say, okay, that just is what it is. But I also know that many of you are very empathic, you're very magical, and you're definitely feeling a lot of things that don't necessarily belong to you either. You're feeling a lot of pain from other people, you're feeling a lot of stress, you're feeling a lot of anxiety, and yet you're still going this direction, right? Soul fragments, balance will be restored. Beautiful with the full moon in Libra, win-win outcome is forecast. That's why faith is so important, because we know that an adjustment had to be made, Tower, and we know that it will always come back into balance. That's the way of the universe. That's the way of things. And that's why the faith here is so important. Balance will be restored. Fragments will come back together. There will be unity. There will be wholeness. Okay? And then by the book. I like the contrast between deep emotion, intensity, and practicality and focus. I really do, because by the book, there's even kind of a generational quality here of the matriarch, the kind of younger follower, and the child. I even saw that in the first pile as well. Right? We're taking responsibility for our ancestral lineage. We're doing our healing. We're doing, the spiritual stuff for the sake of the future. We're kind of allowing that energy to really stop with us. We're saying no more. done, or we have to get this over with. We have to clear this out. We have to reform, and we have to create a better future for our children. And I think you're taking that role very seriously, as well as the role of your earthly accomplishments as well. Like, I'm not telling you to not worry about your job. I think with the Taurus energy, please focus on your job. Please focus on your finances. Please focus on the things that you know are going to be productive, the things that you know contribute to society, and not completely, go in one extreme or the other. It really is all about balance. And when you have this by the book energy, it is systematic process of accomplishment, systematic process of letting your heart lead, so to speak, if I can kind of put it in those terms, systematic process. It's good that we know those things, but it's a totally different thing to put it into practice. And with this Taurus energy, you're definitely putting it into practice, which is admirable. Not a lot of people can really do that right now. Relationships. I'm attracted to those people who serve my highest good. Yeah, and that's been, a message for really since 2018. There's definitely become a greater divide in, between higher level consciousness and lower level consciousness. I think we're seeing it more and more every single day. We're seeing that separation occur. And, you're going to begin that's why I think it's almost like a separation from the Empress. I don't know why I get such bad vibes from the Empress from this deck. She's one of my favorites in all the other tarot decks, but here she just kind of has a little poutiness, kind of petty, materialistic kind of vibe to her. And that's not really where we're at anymore, right? This Saturn-Jupiter conjunction happening on December 21st is happening in Aquarius in Western astrology. So the worldly component of things, this is a spiritual revolution. So, you're going to be drawn to people more and more who are focusing more on bringing goodness to the world and enlightening people and things like that. Miao Shen, the Princess of Mercy, giving is receiving. The energy of the universe is merciful. And I think the lack of judgment here is so critical. I'm seeing so much judgment going on in the world right now, pointing fingers, casting judgment. And that's a really, really hard thing to look at from a mass scale, that there is still so much judgment and things going on. Instead of saying, holy cow, there is a problem. We have this low level consciousness going on. There are evil acts being done. There are evil things occurring. And we have to just, figure out how to raise the consciousness more than anything. That's the real battle. How do we raise the consciousness here? And giving is the best way to be the act of light, to be the ones that, right? What's that? I think this quote is often taken out of context, but the kind of bastardized version of it is be the change that you would like to seek in the world. I think that's a Gandhi quote. It's not exactly what Gandhi said, but that's kind of what all the memes that are floating all around say, to be the change you seek in the world. But I think there is truth to that nonetheless. And it is time to show mercy. It is time to show mercy. Relax the hold of darkness and be at cause. Your optimism is your superpower, guys. Your faith is your superpower. Your passion, your consciousness, and your resolve and your calm are your superpower. You're being elevated, plain and simple. You're being elevated. The tower is elevating you. You're growing, you're evolving, and this is a path that you and you alone are on. And not everyone is on that journey. And I feel like there's a recharge of your battery coming through, right? You're going to feel a surge of energy coming up here, probably after the solar eclipse. You're going to feel alive again. Maybe into August, maybe into Leo season. I'm seeing a tiger, I'm seeing a lion here. I'm seeing a combination with the bull here, kind of like with the fixed energy. There's going to be something more powerful coming down the line. So you're in the ascent right now, whether you can see that or not. And that's why the emotions that are overwhelming you is probably more symptomatic, not so much of a circumstance or a situation that happened, but it's symptomatic of the change of vibration that you are entering into. It's the effects of the ascent itself. And so if you're feeling rocky, if you're feeling irritable and shaky and all the things I've already said, please know it has nothing to do with all the reasons why you think caused that irritability. Okay? You're on the ascent, plain and simple. All right, you guys, I'm going to leave you with that. I wish you guys nothing but the best. I hope you have an amazing week. It's a big week. It's a big month ahead. A lot going on astrologically. And I think I'm going to put together another video talking about some more things so we can all kind of be aware of the global effects. All right? I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Okay, pile number 3, you guys select the yellow quartz, and we also have this Othilla, hopefully I'm pronouncing it properly, the rune Othilla. Now, this particular rune is suggestive of pretty severe separation and retreat, which means it's possible that as we build up to this solar eclipse, we build up to the Mercury retrograde, we build up to Venus moving direct, that there's going to be pretty substantial action on your part that needs to be taken in terms of following your path. Some of you may feel like you're denying yourself, your position in society or your position with your group of friends but this is for the sake of your truth. This is for the sake of what you know to be true and good for you and in your path. Whether you like it or not, an evolution is occurring for you, for all of us in this moment. And Jupiter and Pluto coming conjunct in Capricorn, or rather in Vedic astrology, in the very last degree, 29th degree of Sagittarius, there is a profound coming to terms with truth, okay? And this is on you, like your individual truth. And when we step on that path, when we begin that journey, separations occur. And it may be separations from material goals. It may be separations from original ambitions, things that you always thought you wanted. And it's almost may feel like a denial of those things, but in reality, the reward for things is going to be that much greater than that which you perceive you're giving up right now. And if those things are relationships, that's okay, because you're going to find people at your new vibration that will continue to challenge you and help you grow rather than pull you down. So we have the Fool, okay, 5 of air or 5 of swords, Ace of coins, 2 of air, and the High Priestess. So when we have the Fool and the High Priestess, these are pretty low numbered, right? 0 and number 2. So they're pretty low on the beginning journey here, which does tell me that you're going to have to follow your gut on this one, because your mind is going to get really in the way. There's going to be a lot of thoughts coming out, a lot of, fears, a lot of insecurities about whether or not what you're doing is right and best and whether or not it's smart. And the only thing I can tell you is to trust yourself. Trust yourself in what you know to be true. Now is a good time to cancel out the noise, right? Especially if you have friends and family who are trying to, tell you what it's supposed to be for you. Now is a time to separate and to retreat, okay? And when I say retreat, I know we've been all in lockdown or whatever, but this is more of a spiritual or an emotional retreat, I think. Taking a break so that you can actually hear yourself. In the very center, we have this Ace of coins or Ace of earth, and we have an image of like a stag. Now, this is a very profound animal, right? This animal spirit, kind of the prince of the forest. It's a sign, it's an omen for you to follow, right? And a stag is an energy that you can trust. It's extraordinarily protective. It's very wise. And it has knowledge of the darkness of the forest, which means you can follow and you can trust that you will be led in the right direction. But you have to accept this gift first. And it is a gift. It is an ace. It is something that is coming toward you. And I think this is going to be a little unconventional. It's not going to be something that you are commonly thinking about most of the time. It's going to be a little bit out of left field. And I think a lot of people's true callings, purposes, meaning of life, all that kind of stuff is really hitting us in the face right now. And it's like, okay, maybe my purpose in life has nothing to do with my job. Maybe it has nothing to do with, my family. Maybe it has nothing to do with partnership. Maybe it has everything to do with what I can contribute to raising the consciousness of the world. And I'm not trying to blanket statement that. I know that's not for everybody and not everyone is the same, but, we have to acknowledge our role here in helping people, right? Helping people through teaching people. The problem is that I think you are surrounded by a few people at least that are either not ready for that or they don't understand it. They don't understand what you mean. They don't understand why you might want to give something up for the sake of something that seems, fruitless or whatever. But this is where you have to have faith. And I almost am seeing this like a spirit guide coming out. And you're just being perfectly led in this moment in time. You're perfectly stable. You're perfectly positioned for this pivot that you're really about to make. Your high priestess, your inner knowing, that inner voice that genuinely wants the best for you, she's tapping you on the shoulder right now and she's like, hey, pay attention to what your heart is saying. Pay attention to the symbols, pay attention to the omens that you receive, to the synchronicities, because the universe is connecting with you, it's communicating with you. Although it's not loud, there's nothing loud about this energy at all. Right? If you acknowledge that you're at the very beginning of a new path, a new level of ascent, and you remain humble in that knowledge, then any feelings of doubt and insecurities and is this right or not right, or, should I leave this person behind or not? Should I give up or not? All those questions are just simply going to fall by the wayside, because ultimately if people that are meant to be in your life are truly meant to be in your life, then they will come with you. That's it, plain and simple. And faith is being called upon us in a big, big way. Rejoice in celebration and memories of love. You can always and should always look back on your current and past experiences with joy and gratitude. You will have a reason to celebrate. There will be good blessings that come from this new whatever have you. And I think, and I keep saying it over and over, 2020 is and has been a foundational year. So the question really now is what are you going to build on that foundation? What is it going to look like? It's so critical that we understand that our life experiences, good or bad, perceived good or bad, have been specifically to get you where you are now. And future and present experiences are to get you where you're meant to go. And that if you can look back on those experiences with love and gratitude, you look back on them with thanks and appreciation, you will be able to step into that role of creator, into that role of the architect, and you will be able to build a beautiful new structure for yourself. Absolutely, 100%. These thoughts, though, are going to get in the way, especially this 5 of air right here and all the other little voices that you have going on, all the noise around you. That's why you have to follow in earnest. You have to follow in faith. Okay? A personal issue reaches resolution. Yes, there's going to be a closeout. This is going to have a lot to do with the solar eclipse and moving into Leo season, okay, at the end of July. It's time for as the nodes move into Gemini and Sagittarius, it's not so much going to be about how we feel about things. It's not going to be so much about, our personal experiences and our past and our path and all of that. This is going to be about learning, education. This is going to be expanding our consciousness. And it's going to be about new lines of philosophy and new connections with God. So the time of healing is really coming to a close. It's coming to the end of the chapter with that North Node in Cancer. So this card makes sense. And believe in the impossible. You have to have faith that this stag is leading you somewhere, right? That this is leading you to the ultimate in your outcome. I think that this is the epitome of the universe loves courage. The universe loves it when you take risks. The universe loves it when you're not afraid to throw everything away and begin again, or when you're not afraid to tell people that you love to leave you alone for right now, or when you're not afraid to separate from things that are unhealthy for you, right? The universe loves that because it clears the path, and it's an indication to the universe that you're willing to really listen. So when you believe in the impossible, and we have a card of rejoice and celebration, to me, that is a suggestion that, one, you're going to be ultimately a lot happier, right? We have the yellow here, which indicates that feeling of joy from that solar plexus. And life will just be a lot easier for you in a lot of ways. So if you can believe in the impossible, believe that you can have the things that you want to have, then it's more likely that you will have it. And you are protected 100%. I really believe this is a spirit guide coming through for you guys. You are being watched over. You are completely safe. There is no risk in the things that you are perceiving as being risky because you have yourself. Okay, because you have yourself and you have the support of the people who genuinely care about you. And I feel a sense of calm coming over this reading right now. And maybe some of you are taking a sigh of relief of like, okay, now I know what I need to do and I know I'll be safe doing it. And now I'm actually going to do it because I know I'm safe. Shape-shifting. I love that. It is, it is a transformation. And what's so weird about it is it doesn't necessarily have to be painful. It doesn't have to be, a terrible experience. It doesn't have to be wrought with tears and all this stuff. It's just a matter of just change for the sake of change. And sometimes change does happen and it doesn't hurt anybody and it doesn't hurt you and it just happens. And separation just happens. That's it. And as you rise in consciousness, that is an inevitability and will continue to be an inevitability until the end of your lifeline here. That's the way of life. And I think a lot of the pain and suffering that comes from being a human being is our desire to cling to things that we know and understand. And that especially includes people. We don't want to let go of friends. We don't want to let go of lovers. We don't want to let go of parents or children. And yet that is the natural order, right? Everything is in a constant state of turnover. And you especially are in this moment. Moon, okay? Yeah, we've got a moon right here. We have a moon here. We have the moon cards. We have the high priestess, which is always connected with the moon as well. So this is, past life stuff coming to fruition, coming to the surface for the sake of either picking up where you left off or for the sake of resolution or closure or whatever it is. And the moon is the container of all information, right? It really represents our deepest minds. It contains all the information that is behind the veil. So memories of all our past, present, and future lives, memories of all our incarnations, memories of from whence we came, memories of source, memories of God, memories of our starseed communities, like however you identify or whatever you look at, the moon contains all. So you have access to this when you give your consciousness to this, which means you have the access of the abundance of the universe at any moment in time. Some of us have had to learn really hard lessons about what that means. We've had to have a lot of failures about what that means. We've had to learn to let go, and then we failed, and we're like, oh, we try to close back up. But the universe keeps saying, have faith, have faith. The abundance of the universe is infinite. The abundance of the universe is infinite. And yet our fears keep getting in the way so that we don't really have the capacity to invite that into our lives. But now is an opportunity for you to really live that in truth, to really live that in the reality that you're experiencing now. It doesn't necessarily mean abundance in money. It can, but abundance in love and joy and fulfillment, abundance in having all of your needs met so that you can continue with your work. I think that this, stag is really guiding us or guiding you, whoever picked this pile, into the higher work. Okay. And we have the third eye vision. Reclaim your mind. Yes, absolutely. Right. Take ownership of this. Take ownership of who you really are. Because with all of the, social media, with all the news, with all the events, with all the voices, 5 of Swords, 2 of Swords, really tearing us apart, we have to reclaim our minds. We have to reclaim who we truly are. We have to reclaim our place in this moment, okay? And we do that by first taking a beat, taking a moment to understand that maybe we need to separate from people who are trying to tell us that we are one thing when we in fact know we are another thing. Okay? Exchanging gifts. See, the world will give you their gifts when you begin to give your gifts. And I wonder if you feel like you've been giving gifts already, giving your value, giving your perspective, giving your story, giving your talents. Have you been doing that as much as you would like? I think for many of you, the answer is no. Now is the time to go full throttle. I would say now's the time to go full throttle. Now's the time to take the plunge, because I promise you what goes out comes back threefold. And when you give love and light and education and experience and value and story and art and music and knowledge and all the things, you actually do make a difference in the world, and the world will not let that debt be unpaid. It's the way it works. Success, right? Rejoice in celebration. Success. I know that there is no greater goal than to love. And when we give, it means we love. And when I say give, I do not mean self-sacrificial codependence type of giving. This is not you giving to your narcissistic ex. That's not what this is. I have to always reaffirm that, because people think like, oh my God, I'm giving so much to my boyfriend or to my husband. I'm giving so much. But that's not... If it's not healthy for you, then it's not good for you. And if it's not good for you, then it's not good for the world. This is healthy giving. This is contribution. This is not giving up your power in any way. I have to just really emphasize that because it's important. And if you find yourself in a narcissistic codependent situation or trying to get out of one, this is a rune of separation. It means that it's probably about time for that to happen. Okay, Goddess of compassion. I recognize suffering in order to release it. Curiosity breeds compassion. Yes, your own suffering, one, and the suffering of others, two. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I do believe that what's going on has made an incredible impact, and has been for the past decade, I would say, really since 2013 at a minimum. Realizing how many wounds, this was really when Saturn was going through Scorpio at the time, just that there was a lot of wounds, right? There was a lot of wounding happening, and we couldn't escape the truth. We just simply couldn't. We had to look it in the face, and I think we're still kind of looking at it in the face right now. And this is on a personal level and a global level. And we've had to come to grips that, certain suffering is still there. And I think with the North Node in Cancer, we had that opportunity to really just be like, yep, this is it. Yep, this is in my heart. Yep, this is still present. Yep, I still have to heal this. And it's just more about letting it come up to the surface, right? Recognize suffering in order to release it. You have to first acknowledge it. You have to first look it in the face. You have to let it come up. You have to feel it. You got to go through it, and then you can release it, right? And then you can do that for others. and you can see the suffering of others, and you can help them through your experience, through your stories, through your value, through your experience, help them to release it as well. In the world, not of the world. I think that's an important phrase to remember, that we are all in the world, but we are not of this world. We all come from another place, which really connects us all, and that we are all equal. We are all the same. And I think one thing that you're separating from is a world of separation. Right? That's what definitely was happening. You're separating from the world of separation because you are internally becoming more unified. You are internally merging the light and dark within yourself, and therefore you see the separation and therefore know that you must back off and separate yourself from that for the sake of your own internal unity, but also being able to offer assistance in helping others to unify as well. I posted on my Instagram once, like, with this whole lockdown thing, it became clear that, the best way for me to help humanity is to be very far outside of it. Because if we are totally inside of it, we get very lost in the dialogues, very lost in other people's perspectives, right? The noise. So when you separate and retreat yourself from the noise, you can hear yourself think, right? Reclaim your mind, and then you can really do what you're meant to do. So it's going to be an interesting time. There are going to be interesting choices placed in front of you, and it's going to be an interesting process for yourself to really see how you go about making these decisions, how you go about aligning yourself with a truth that you identify with, and to see the outcome, to see the effects of that. Okay? Big week again, you guys. I'm preparing the July readings this week. They might be a little bit late. I've been feeling just very overwhelmed by a lot of things that are going on, so I apologize for that, but they will come when they are ready. All right, I'll see you guys very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.